All right, let's dive into this career that's been getting a lot of attention. Renewable Energy Engineering. You've been looking into this. And you want to know, is this all hype? Or is this really going to be a big thing in the future?
You know what's so interesting about this is that it's not just about getting rid of fossil fuels and using solar panels instead. It's about dealing with some of the biggest problems humans face, like climate change or making sure everyone has enough energy. It's about creating a future that's sustainable.
Okay, so it's definitely got that making a difference thing going for it, which a lot of people are into these days. But our sources say this isn't just some small thing anymore. This industry is blowing up. One report even said that jobs for solar panel installers are growing 10 times faster than almost every other job out there.
That's right. And the need for people who can actually design, build, and manage these renewable energy systems is going through the roof.
So let's say someone's thinking, hey, maybe I want to do that. What does a renewable energy engineer actually do? Is it all about math and looking at blueprints?
Well, there's definitely some of that involved, but it's more like being the conductor of an orchestra, except you're conducting sustainable solutions. Like one day you might be on your computer using some pretty complex software, trying to figure out how much energy a wind farm could produce in a certain spot.
So yeah, you need to really understand the science and engineering behind all of this.
Absolutely. But then the next day, you might be out in the field at a construction site, working with electricians and other engineers to get a solar panel installation up and running. Or maybe you're presenting a new idea for a biofuel project to the town council.
Wow, so it's not just the technical stuff. It's about communication and solving problems in the real world. Our sources emphasize that a lot.
Exactly. And that's what makes this field so cool. You need to have the technical skills, but you also have to be creative and good with people. It's about connecting that complicated technology with making it actually work in people's lives.
So let's say someone is really into the idea of designing these innovative systems. What kind of education do they need to even get started in this field?
Having a strong foundation in engineering is really important. You'll need at least a bachelor's degree, and our sources talked about a few common ways to go: electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, or environmental engineering.
So you could take the traditional engineering path and then focus on renewable energy later.
Exactly. But something I found really interesting was that more and more universities are now offering specific renewable energy engineering programs for undergrads.
Wow, so you could really zero in on those specific skills and technologies right from the beginning. That's a big change.
It really shows how fast this field is growing and how much they need people with specialized knowledge.
Now, our sources also brought up these certifications like Certified Energy Manager or CEM and LEED Green Associate. Are those a must-have to be competitive? And what do they even mean?
That's a great question. So LEED stands for Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design. And it's a globally recognized system for rating how green a building is. It's basically setting the standard for what makes a building environmentally friendly and sustainable.
Okay, so getting that LED Green Associate certification shows you understand these principles and how to actually use them.
Exactly. These certifications might not be mandatory to get your foot in the door, but they can give you a real advantage over others. It shows employers you're not just keeping up with the latest advancements, but you're going above and beyond.
Yeah, it's like that extra something that says, I'm serious about this,
Yeah.
especially in a field that's always changing with new technologies and way of doing things.
It shows you're committed to lifelong learning, which is super important for any renewable energy engineer who wants to stay ahead of the game.
And speaking of staying ahead, our sources looked into what a typical career path in this field looks like.
Right, because you're not just going to be a renewable energy engineer forever,
Yeah.
right? There's a ton of room to grow and specialize within this field.
Okay, so let's imagine someone's just starting. What does that career journey look like?
You'll probably begin with an entry-level position, like an assistant engineer or research associate. This is where you'll get your hands dirty, working on specific parts of bigger projects under someone more experienced.
So you're getting that real-world experience and someone to show you the ropes early on. Makes sense. So what's next?
Well, as you get more experience and knowledge, you might become a junior engineer. This is where you start taking on more responsibility, like maybe even leading smaller projects or parts of bigger ones. You might be designing specific components for a solar energy system, or testing how well wind turbines are working, or even working with communities to figure out what their renewable energy needs are.
So it's like you're starting to see your ideas actually become a reality, and that's got to feel good. But our sources also talked about how competitive this field is. Do they have any advice on how to stand out from the crowd besides those certifications we talked about?
One thing that really stood out to me was how much they emphasized hands-on experience. Yeah, good grades and the right degree are important, but having actual projects you've worked on can make you really stand out.
Right, because it's one thing to understand the theory, but it's another thing to actually build a solar panel system, right?
Exactly. Employers want to see that you can walk the walk. Internships, research projects, even volunteering for organizations that are all about renewable energy, those experiences are super valuable.
So let's say it's a few years down the road. You've put in the work, you've got some solid experience under your belt. What's next for a renewable energy engineer?
This is where things can get really interesting. And you might find yourself in a more specialized role. You could become a project manager where you're overseeing big renewable energy projects from beginning to end, managing budgets, timelines, and entire teams. Or you might decide to focus on a specific type of technology, like offshore wind energy or concentrated solar power.
So you can really find your niche and become an expert in something specific.
Exactly. And as you gain even more experience, you could even move into research and development, working on the very latest renewable energy technologies. Or you could go into consulting, where you'd be advising businesses and governments on the best sustainable energy strategies.
It sounds like there's so much room to grow and so many different paths you could take. But let's be real, no job is perfect. Our sources did mention some of the challenges of working in this field.
Yeah, of course. One of the biggest challenges, like we talked about earlier, is the competition. Because this field is really in demand, it can be tough to get those really desirable positions at the top companies or research institutions.
So you really need to be ready to work hard and put yourself out there.
For sure. And then there's the nature of the work itself. Renewable energy projects are usually pretty complex, they take a long time to finish, and there are a lot of different things happening at once. And sometimes they can get delayed for things you have no control over, like problems with permits or unexpected technical issues.
I could see how that would be frustrating.
It definitely can be. You need to be able to handle uncertainty, be a good problem solver on the spot, and stay positive even when things don't go as planned.
It sounds like you need to be a certain kind of person to really enjoy working in this field, someone who actually likes a challenge and doesn't mind a little chaos.
Yeah, exactly. Our sources also said that having a real passion for sustainability is super important. Because, let's be honest, this work isn't always glamorous. There will be long hours, tight deadlines, and yeah, sometimes it's going to be frustrating.
But if you're really driven by the mission of making a positive impact on the planet, those challenges probably feel less like obstacles and more like motivation, right?
You got it. That feeling of purpose you get from knowing you're helping to build a more sustainable future can be a powerful motivator. But it's not all about the big picture either.
Okay, so there's more to it than just saving the planet. What else did they say was a good thing about working in renewable energy?
One thing they mentioned was the potential for innovation. This field is still pretty new and it's changing so fast, so there's a lot of room to be creative and come up with totally new solutions.
So you're not just following someone else's lead, you're helping to create the future of energy.
Exactly. And that can be really exciting, especially for people who like to push the boundaries and think outside the box. Our sources also talked about how collaborative this field is, which is definitely a plus for a lot of people.
Oh, right. We talked earlier about how important communication and people skills are in this line of work.
Right. It's not enough to just be good at math and science. You need to be able to work well with all kinds of people, other engineers, scientists, policymakers, and regular people in the community.
Teamwork makes the dream work, as they say.
Exactly. And for a lot of people, that feeling of working together towards a shared goal is one of the most rewarding parts of the job. Bouncing ideas off of each other, learning from everyone's expertise. It's a really cool environment to be a part of.
It's like you're not just building solar panels and wind turbines, you're building relationships and a whole community of people who are all passionate about the same thing.
You said it. And that feeling of being part of something bigger than yourself, that can be really powerful and fulfilling.
It sounds like this field has so much to offer. Meaningful work, intellectual challenges, the chance to really make a difference, and a really supportive and collaborative work environment. But let's bring it back to you for a second. We've covered a lot, so what's really sticking out to you so far?
Yeah, we really dug deep into renewable energy engineering, didn't we? We talked about the skills you need, the different career paths, the tough parts, and all the amazing things that come with this kind of work.
It's got me thinking, do you have to be a certain type of person right from the start to do this, or is it something you can kind of grow into?
That's a great question. Our sources mentioned a few personality traits that often attract people to this field, like being good at solving problems, being passionate about sustainability, and being able to think outside the box.
So if you're someone who really enjoys those big, complicated challenges and gets excited about coming up with new solutions, that's a good sign.
Totally. Remember, we're talking about facing some of the world's biggest problems, like climate change or figuring out how to get everyone access to energy. We're talking about creating a future that actually works and that takes a special kind of drive and commitment.
Our sources also mention how important communication and teamwork are in this field. It's not like you're just by yourself in a lab somewhere. You're working with all sorts of people, engineers, scientists, even politicians and regular folks.
Absolutely. And you got to be able to explain these complex technical things to people who aren't engineers, you know? Like imagine you're trying to explain a new solar project to a bunch of investors, or maybe you're presenting an idea to your local government.
So you got to break it down so everyone gets it and is excited about it.
Exactly. And don't forget about being adaptable. This field is constantly evolving with all these new technologies and ideas popping up all the time. You got to be someone who loves to learn and stay on top of things.
So it's not just about what you know right now, but being open to new information and always learning new skills.
That's a really good point.
And that brings us back to you. As you've been listening to all of this, can you picture yourself working in this field? Do you see yourself doing well in this kind of setting, tackling those big challenges, working with people who really care, and actually making a difference in the world?
It's a lot to think about, but that's kind of what these deep dives are for, right? To give you the info you need to make good decisions about your future. Exactly. We've given you a glimpse of what it's like to work in renewable energy engineering, but now the real journey begins. Ask yourself, does this path fit with what you care about, what interests you, and how you see the future?
And for those of you who feel that spark, that pull towards a career that's both really tough and incredibly rewarding, just remember, we've barely scratched the surface. There's a whole world of renewable energy technologies out there. Solar, wind, hydropower, geothermal, bioenergy, the list goes on.
Each one has its own challenges, its own complexities, and its own incredible potential to completely change how we power our world. So here's something to think about as you go forward. What area of renewable energy really grabs your attention? What problem are you most passionate about solving?
Because at the end of the day, it's about finding that perfect match between what you love and what the world needs. And who knows, you might be the one who comes up with the next big breakthrough that helps us create a cleaner, more sustainable future for everyone.